Want to expand the reach of your content? Start a podcast. Feature industry experts on your show and leverage the influence and reach of your guests to grow your brand. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show. Welcome back. We are here today with Anthony Kennada. He is the VP of Marketing at Gainsight. Anthony, how you doing today, man?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to chat with you today, Anthony. We had you on B2B Growth several months ago now, and I know that you guys at Gainsight have put together a conference called Pulse for a while now, and so I thought, man, it'd be really cool to get you on to talk about kind of your learnings from Pulse and what it's like to put a conference together from scratch, really, and then how you're leveraging the content from that conference. I've been seeing conferences like Inbound, where they're repurposing a lot of the content from the conference, and so I thought, man, Anthony could really speak to that. So before we get into that, though, Anthony, I'd love to hear more about Gainsight. You know, what is Gainsight? What is Pulse? That'll set some context for this.
Totally. Gainsight, we are a software company. We develop software for this new world called customer success. And the idea is that we've moved to this from a business model perspective. This shift to a subscription has really given customers a lot of choice. So they've moved from the world where all the power in the relationship kind of lived with the vendor, where now customers can acquire new products on a freemium basis. They could leave you just as easily as they join you. So that's kind of drawn this movement around this new thing called customer success. So we develop a technology for that. And then you mentioned Pulse. We also fundamentally understand that this movement is very new. And most businesses that are either large organizations that are moving to a subscription business model, or small companies that are building in the fabric of the company, building products kind of born in the cloud, there's a focus on strategy definition first before they're ready to buy the product. And so we recognize that. And so we wanted to be the ones to deliver that value up front, help them figure out what customer success really means and what it means to them and their kind of customer base. And so that's kind of a content channel, an event channel that we invest quite a bit in under the Pulse label. So you can think of Pulse as really our thought leadership, our best practice channel that we try to cultivate and facilitate in the community. And then ultimately, Gainsight is the software product that pays the bills and kind of keeps the lights on.
Love it. I love it. So Anthony, as we kind of dive into some different things that folks need to keep in mind as they, they're getting their conference off the ground. They want to figure out, how do I capitalize on all the content that's happening at our conference? This first thing, as we were talking about it offline, we're just really kind of around logistically, how do you actually capture that content? Can you talk to us about what you guys have done with Pulse to capture that? Yeah,
and I think what kind of hit us was we're investing so much time, so much resources, and not just our own, but our prospects and customers that are coming on board as speakers, our investors. It's such a time-consuming, expensive effort. It would be a shame if it all just ended as soon as the lights turn off and as soon as the last keynote walks off stage. And so just thinking about that, we wanted to try to find some of the different mechanisms of capturing that content so that we can leverage it in later days. So first is live streaming, which is something that I think we're seeing more and more of. But the idea here is if you're investing in video capture in at least the general sessions of your conferences, or even in breakouts, live streaming becomes this additional add-on that helps you expand your audience. And a lot of conferences are held in cities where your customer base may not exist, or folks are going to have to travel in, and a well-orchestrated marketing campaign could convict them to buy the ticket and travel, but that's not always the case. And so live streaming enables you to kind of reach folks who again aren't traveling in for the conference, but still want to get the message. And from a demand capture perspective, it's great because they're filling out a form. Oftentimes they're even purchasing kind of a lower price ticket to come to that event. So you get the message delivered that way. If you're not doing the live streaming, capturing the video is great. It's your post-event kind of microsite your archive, if you will, of all the great sessions. You can put them on YouTube, or you can put them behind something like a Vidyard, where you're also capturing kind of viewership and demand gen off of those assets. And then the third, and we do this more often than not, is if you're setting up a PA system, if there's wireless mics, if there's a mixed board in the back, typically you can plug in an MP3 kind of recording device, whatever it is, and you can at least get the audio. And so the audio mixed with slides can turn into webinars that can be rebroadcast sort of later on, and you get the opportunity to, at a very low cost, at least capture the value that was created at the event and be able to leverage that somehow, whether it's transcribed into a blog post, ebook, or a webinar.
Got it. So when you talked about live streaming, Anthony, if I'm understanding you right, you charge like a lower tier price to get access to the live stream. And I'm assuming that is so that you don't cannibalize the people that paid, whatever, $1,000 to come to your conference, and then you're giving away the content for free.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through your thought process there?
It's such a difficult dance trying to figure out not just how to position the live stream, but when to promote it. For us, we are, as I mentioned with Pulse, this whole thing is so new. And so we're very motivated by how many people come to the conference, because it's a proxy of how big is this community growing. And obviously that won't scale forever, but for now, we like to look at the year-on-year growth. And so it's really important to us that our registration number, that our attendee numbers are large. And so we're careful not to introduce the live stream, day one of promotions. In fact, we try to feel like we've kind of hit that sort of point of diminishing return in terms of our email strategy. Like, all right, people from Europe at this point, 1 week out, aren't going to travel in. Let's introduce the live stream, stuff along those lines. So we've chosen to do it for free, but I've seen many people do it where they pay a small fee. But at that point, you're still trying to just monetize, right? But I don't know how much revenue can be generated if you're starting to push it a week out and charging $99 for a view instead of $300 or whatever to attend. So I would encourage you to think of the live stream really as a breadth play. Like, we're just going to go wide on this when we feel like we've got our attendees committed and get the message out there. And one other thing to think about is maybe rerun the live stream as a replay a week later and charge for that, or charge for something else where it's not a webinar, but it's a live event that's happening for those that missed it. And I think you might have a better opportunity to capture some dollars there.
Got it. And are you recording breakouts as well as kind of the main stage talks? How does that live streaming work from that side?
It gets expensive. It for sure gets expensive. And so we have done the general session, and we typically have a second stage. That's our junior general session. And so we'll do 2 at most. I think the video infrastructure overall does get pretty expensive. Now, the live streaming platforms do allow you to have multiple rooms and all those sorts of things. And so I think it's up to you and to figure out kind of how much do you want to invest there. For us, we found that the general session, the keynotes, and that's really where a ton of the kind of people are taking time out of their day to pull up a browser and watch the live stream. But there's a lot of great tactical kind of deep dive, meaty topics that happen in breakouts. And so for those, we definitely don't turn a blind eye to them. We think about the audio. We think about doing more with them after the conference for sure.
Got it. Can you talk a little bit more about audio specifically? Like, since you just mentioned it, that's something that I think would be easily forgotten. But how have you guys kind of addressed that?
It is easily forgotten. It's just it's cheap to free. So that's why it's like, okay, we might as well, right? At least get the CD at the end of it from our production company, that has the audio in it. How we've leveraged it, the first step is there are some really, really cost-effective transcription services with like a 24-hour turnaround where you can send them the MP3 and it'll come back. It's near perfect. You might want to have someone take a look at it and copy edit a little bit. But that in and of itself could feed several blog posts, maybe an ebook, depending on what the topic is. And I think your speakers appreciate it too. If they get kind of the credit, right, for the bylines and you're able to distribute it, socially and via email, then It extends the value of their investment with you, their investment building their decks and their content. So there's value there. The other way we've done it is we had a track that was basically a customer testimonial track for us, where we asked our customers to come up and tell their customer success evolution story. But, we asked them to reference Gainsight if you can, if authentically it was part of that story. And so we have some great, 45-minute sessions of customers saying, hey, here's how we transformed our world. Now Gainsight was a part of that. So we took the slides and we took the audio and we used like Camtasia or iMovie or something very simply, and we turned it into a webinar. But we didn't use it as a live webinar. We didn't promote it as a live thing. If you go to our customers page, you might see a customer logo and the little webinar icon. You can click that and get like a 45-minute explanation of how they're changing the world. So it's not the high fidelity 1080p customer testimonial video with the fun jingle in the background and the clever backdrop, but it's engaging and it's meaty and it's real and it's free, right, to some extent.
I mean, it can be used forever. What an evergreen asset that is.
And sales loves it.
Yeah.
Sales, because it's some, if one of our customers has a very specific pain point that we were able to cause, they could send that off to their prospects versus us using it necessarily at the very top of the funnel.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Talking more about kind of leveraging that content post-conference, Anthony, I could see how, you could go about it from a brand perspective. You could go about it from a demand gen perspective. You talked to us about, how you just the content you're using from those customer stories. What are some other ways that you can leverage that content post-conference?
Yeah. Well, I'll touch on the brand side. I think there's a lot there. In our world, I mentioned this in the opening. We are I use the word evangelical. We have to sell the world on the fact that this customer success thing is real.
Yeah.
We're trying to create a category around it. And so for that, file this under, I think the typical term is like early stage content, where the mission and the narrative is not about our product or service at all, but completely about, hey, how do you compensate a CSM? What are, what's a comp plan look like? What does a hiring strategy look like? Team and org structure? How do I convince my board that this is real? And so those are all things that we over-invest in. And the breadth of the distribution is wide, where we're doing emails. It's part of our social cadence. In fact, it's creating most of our content, most of our editorial calendar for the whole year off this one single event, just because of all the sessions and conversations around that. So that might sound like a demand gen thing to say, just because it's early stage content, it's the Marketo playbook, and it's all these things. But there is the intangible of the brand that's also created with that. And the whole focus there, the whole goal is not only are you trying to drive return attendance for next year, not only are you trying to monetize the content, the work that your team's already done, but you're also trying to position your brand with the movement, with the industry. And I think the value of that content could go a long way in addressing that and trying to get that goal.
So when it comes to distribution, I want to kind of close with this, Anthony, around how you actually get this content, and obviously you've got some of it living on your website, on the customer page, as kind of a 45-minute webinar. I would imagine you could probably pretty easily bake this into your marketing automation, based on kind of where in the funnel you feel like the content fits best. But can you talk to us a little bit about the distribution of the content that you guys are getting from your conference?
For sure. So what we do, at the very fundamental level, we will create a sort of it's like a place where all of this stuff goes and lives after it's done, a single destination, a microsite, I guess. Yeah. Right, where all of this stuff lives. And so you can look back at, Paul's conferences past, change the date in the URL string for 2016, 2015, 2014, and see like the history of the event. So that's the first place we go, and we'll typically send that as a wrap-up email to all attendees via Marketo and send them there. Now, as they're engaging in these videos, we use Vidyard as a container, and so they can start watching them. If they're cookied, they aren't prompted, and they can just keep watching it like as they would a YouTube video. If they're not cookied, we ask them to give us their email address, very simple, sending 1 or 2 questions, and then they can keep watching. So that's the first bit. The second thing we do is here's what you missed emails, which go out to everyone else basically, and we send them to the microsite. It's positioned really as, the content archive. Come and see the conversation that you weren't a part of, I guess. Try to create that hey, but make sure to be there next year type of thing. Next is we take SEO pretty seriously because I mentioned a lot of these topics. They're perennial topics. There are things that people new to customer success are searching. Hey, how do I pay my customer success manager to carry that example forward? And so we try to ensure that all the videos, all the potentially transcriptions. One thing that actually I forgot to mention earlier is we have paid scribes in each room for taking notes.
Okay.
For the two things people complain about most at conferences are, and their questions, if you just get it out of the way first, they're so happy. When am I going to get the slides? And they're doing this on this before. So we're like, look, let's help with this. We're going to give you the slides before you show up. And so you've got the slides there. And also we have Google Docs set up in this kind of box drive, and everyone has access to it. And we have scribes taking notes live. So you can listen and feel like you don't have to do that. So we include all those notes and slides and everything in that wrap-up email as well. We use SEO to we think very intentionally about SEO to make sure that people can find us on the long tail. And I think those are kind of the primary ways.
Are you guys doing a lot of live tweeting during it as well?
Totally.
Okay.
And we anchor on that hashtag. And so make sure you have the event hashtag that's unique and you don't have a random something else happening where people are writing to it. But we write to it a lot. We encourage people to do it at the event. We create incentives in terms of giveaways and different things. We'll recognize the most active folks on social throughout the event. And the idea is, I guess twofold. One, it's like live streaming. You want to extend the breadth of your investment. And two, I mean, if you can trend in San Francisco where we host our event and in Oakland and, where we host ours, that brings all the more attention to, hey, this Pulse thing, something's happening there. So we absolutely encourage use of social. And I did leave that out earlier. We activate that as a channel for sure for distributing content after the conference as well.
Got it. Anthony, this has been super, super helpful, I think, for anybody who's either maybe they've had a conference for a while or they're thinking about kicking one off and really thinking about how do we leverage the content that's going to come out of this thing. Obviously, this thing is virtual. You've even got my wheels turning on how I can leverage the content. So if there's anybody, maybe Anthony, if they want to connect with you further on this, they want to ask a few clarifying questions, or if they want to learn more about Gainsight and Pulse, what's the best way for them to go about doing both of those things?
Yeah, for me personally, I think Twitter is always good. It's Kennada, so it's AKENNADA. And find me on LinkedIn or anything along those lines. Gainsight's Gainsight.com. Twitter's Gainsight HQ. But definitely we've got plenty of great resources for folks in all functions and all company sizes that are thinking about customer success or evolving their current customer success practice. And so would encourage you if you want to sign up for our newsletter, that's the best way to really kind of keep in touch with us.
Awesome, Anthony. Well, thank you so much for your time today, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. Take care.
To ensure that you never miss an episode of the B2B Growth Show, subscribe to the show in iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device.
If you'd like to connect with B2B executives from all over the world, make sure to join our private Facebook community. There are some incredible conversations happening inside this group. To join, visit b2bgrowthshow.com/FB.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.